welcome back to Hey Kentucky. Of course, everybody in Central Kentucky is really interested in what's going to happen with this 6th District congressional race. Not just people in Central Kentucky, but all around the nation seems to be eyeballing who's going to be the person coming out of this Democrat primary. Well, today on Hey Kentucky, we've got the person that awaits on the Republican side, and that's Congressman Andy Barr, who joins us now. Congressman, how are you, sir?
Hey, Lee, how you doing?
I'm good. Matt couldn't make it because he's at a friend of Karl Marx rally in some town in New York. He sends his apologies.
Hey, no problem. Tell him I said hello.
I will. All right, Andy, let me ask you this. First of all, have you seen any of what is going on the other side as you wait for that opponent to come out of the primary?
You know, a little bit, but to be honest with you, we're really busy. We're busy back in the district. We're busy with our work on the House Financial Services Committee. We're busy with the agenda, the agenda of the Congress, and we're getting a lot done. This has been the most productive term of Congress in my 3 terms in Congress, and we're getting a lot accomplished for the American people. We're solving a lot of problems, and the results are a booming economy and bigger paychecks for the people back home.
You know, it's going to be interesting in November, Andy, whoever comes out of that, because some of the things that you just cited with a booming economy, North Korea, and we'll talk about that in a moment, seems to have turned around a little bit. But you've got Commander-in-Chief who's as polarizing as anybody we've seen in a while, and that's what they'll try to hitch your wagon to. How do you defend that? What do you tout? Because whoever comes out of that primary race is going to try to line you right up with Donald Trump.
Well, look, I mean, I didn't represent President Obama. I don't represent President Trump. I represent the people of the 6th Congressional District of Kentucky. And the agenda that we are advancing in the Congress and out of Washington, D.C. is an agenda of deregulation that's lifting this economy, of tax cuts, of pro-growth policies, strengthening and rebuilding our military to keep America safe and stronger again. We just had a great visit from French President Emmanuel Macron yesterday. Our alliances are much stronger now. And as a result, the country is stronger. We're more prosperous. And so that's the results of this positive agenda that we're going to be running on. And we've accomplished a lot, not just in terms of tax cuts and growing people's paychecks and decreasing unemployment and improving consumer and business confidence, and not just in terms of rebuilding our military and keeping America safe, but also in combating the opioid epidemic. And we've been really focused on some of the problems that are facing our local communities as well.
Yeah, where is that in Washington? Because I know Kentucky is one of the states that is really heavily affected by that. And I know that you, and I've seen Senator McConnell talk about this as well. Have we got the attention of the rest of the nation yet? Because that is something that the community is really concerned about when it comes to opioids.
You mentioned President Trump, and I had an opportunity to fly on Air Force One with the president back last year. And I had the opportunity to talk to him about the epidemic in Kentucky. We suffer from the 3rd highest drug overdose mortality rate in the country in Kentucky. There's about 115 Americans who die every single day as a result of opioid addiction. And so we talked to the president about the importance of prioritizing this as a national emergency. And sure enough, in October, President Trump declared a national public health emergency. And we in the Congress have devoted resources to combat opioid addiction. So with the 21st Century Cures Act, a bipartisan response that's getting grants to states to over $10 million to Frankfurt every single year to provide for treatment and recovery services for folks who are struggling with addiction. Also, we passed the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act. I formed a 6th Congressional District Drug Abuse Task Force. Many of the recommendations of that task force were included in the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act. And we just completed the appropriations bill, which deploys about $4 billion to combat addiction in this country. That's the largest investment to date. So not only are we passing these bills to provide for treatment, recovery, prevention, law enforcement to deal with this, but we're actually funding it. And in fact, Lee, I was able to get an amendment attached to the appropriations bill that increases to $280 million funding for the high-intensity drug trafficking area program. This helps bring federal law enforcement dollars to collaborate with local law enforcement to keep this poison out of our communities. And so we are making a difference. This will help many of our counties in the 6th Congressional District keep drugs out of our communities. And just last month, we brought HUD Secretary Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson, to Lexington to visit some of the recovery programs that we have. The Hope Center, Recovery Kentucky. We met with Shepherd's House. We met with St. James Place, Revive in Nicholasville. And we introduced him to recovery programs that really work. And we are fighting for more HUD funding, more housing funding for long-term transitional housing for addiction recovery. So we're making a difference in that regard.
You know, since we're on the topic of treatment and recovery and that issue, I know I guess it was last year, you kind of went on a tour that reminded me of my comedy shows when I would do a late one on a Friday night where I was dealing with hecklers and drunks. And you were talking about the Affordable Care Act, and a lot of folks were just upset and angry, and that's probably going to come up on the campaign again, Andy. So tell me, Congressman, what is your take with the Affordable Care Act, and as far as the backlash you received, what are your constituents telling you now?
Well, you know, I don't blame my constituents. They should be upset and they should be angry because under Obamacare, their premiums have skyrocketed. They've lost choices. We only have one choice in the exchange because of Obamacare now. Every one of my constituents has every right to be upset, frustrated with this nightmare, which is our healthcare system right now. Premiums are increasing, deductibles are skyrocketing, people are losing choices. So we do need to address healthcare, and you know that's exactly why I voted for the American Health Care Act last year, which would have grown choices, which would have lowered costs, which would have reestablished the doctor-patient relationship, getting bureaucrats out of the way. You know, it came up a little short in the Senate, and so we have to continue to work and be persistent until we get a handle on this. We have solved some problems, though. We repealed the individual mandate, so never again in Kentucky or anywhere else in this country will the government coerce you to buy a health insurance plan, an Obamacare plan that you don't want and you can't afford. So that's progress. Also, in the House of Representatives, we passed an association health care plan that would allow farmers and small business owners and self-employed people to pool together, band together, achieve the purchasing power of large group plans to lower the cost of health care. That's the one complaint that most of my constituents have, is that they don't have enough choices and that costs are skyrocketing. That's directly the result of Obamacare. We're trying to fix Obamacare. We're trying to replace Obamacare precisely to deal with that problem.
You think a lot of folks are going to be excited about some of the tax cuts that have taken place, and as you guys start to reimburse folks, as that money starts rolling in, that maybe the tide will change a little bit with that issue? Because I think most people, for the overall, I mean, this is just anecdotal, they seem pretty happy with it.
Oh, they're more than happy with it. We've got a lot of great feedback from our constituents. You know, a pizza franchisee who operates out of Georgetown, Kentucky, told me that he's going to open up new stores, he's going to hire more people, and he's going to increase the wages for his workers as a result of this. The CEO of a medical clinic in Lexington told me that because of the tax cuts, because of the business tax cuts, they're going to expand, they're going to add on to their clinic, hiring more workers, creating more jobs. Daryl in Estill County, Kentucky, he's a retired railroader. He has a taxable pension. He told me that because of tax cuts, he's getting $49 more a month in his paycheck. A teller in Berea, Kentucky, a teller at a local community bank, she got her paycheck and she thought her employer, the vice president of the bank, had made a mistake and went to the vice president of the bank and said, "I think you made a mistake. My paycheck is bigger than it was before." And he said, "No, that's right." And she said, "Well, did I get a raise?" And he said, "Well, no, I didn't give you a raise, but because of tax cuts, you're effectively getting a raise." So what we're seeing is a shift away from the slowest, weakest economic recovery since the Great Depression into a booming, roaring economy. And consumer confidence is at a 2-decade high. Small business optimism is at a 40-year high, according to the National Federation of Independent Business. Unemployment in Kentucky is at a 42-year low. That's the lowest level of unemployment since the Bureau of Labor Statistics has been recording that. The Department of Labor said that wages have increased this year more than they have since before the recession. So we monitor this. I'm the chairman of the Monetary Policy and Trade Subcommittee. We have oversight over the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is recalibrating their forecasts. You know, we've had 3 consecutive quarters of 3% growth, and the Fed and the CBO is now projecting even higher growth, 3.5% growth. We haven't seen this kind of growth in years.
Some of your colleagues, though, they mock those modest wage increases that a lot of folks, I think, you're right, though, in your assessment that they appreciate and they love. But I see, you know, Nancy Pelosi, she thought this was ridiculous, and they're mocking that. And you know, it's irritating, I think, for regular folks to see that.
Right. Well, it is. And this tax cut, make no mistake about it, the median household income for a family in the 6th Congressional District of Kentucky is going to see a lower tax bill on average of $2,000. Now, Nancy Pelosi may say that that's crumbs, but for people, hardworking taxpayers, hardworking families in Central and Eastern Kentucky, that's a big deal. And what that really underscores is how out of touch Nancy Pelosi is with the way most Americans live. Certainly, she's out of touch with the people of Central and Eastern Kentucky, because people like Daryl, people like that bank teller, people like the Main Street Pizza franchise owner, that is not crumbs for them. That is a big deal, and it means a better, more prosperous, more hopeful future for the people of Central and Eastern Kentucky. And we're just glad that the tax cuts are working to get America back to work again.
Congressman, I got a lot of things I'd love to talk to you about. For instance, North Korea, and we debate gun issue here all the time on Hey Kentucky. So maybe next time you're in town, you can come by and we can discuss those. And also, Congressman, too, you know, we'll probably, whenever your opponent arrives, whoever that may be, we'd love to have a debate, and we hope that maybe you'd be a part of that as well.
Would love to, especially because we've got such a great record to run on, and we are making the country stronger. We're making it more prosperous. And you did mention North Korea, and I just have to say, you know, this is a very important issue because North Korea does represent a very serious threat to our homeland, to our national security. And as the chairman of that subcommittee, I have led on the issue as the chief sponsor of the Otto Warmbier North Korea Nuclear Sanctions Act. The ambassador to South Korea has told me that because of our sanctions bill, which is the toughest economic sanctions ever directed toward Pyongyang, we have deprived the Kim regime of $1 billion in hard currency. We are getting results. That's why Kim Jong-un is coming to the negotiating table, and the work we're doing in Congress is making a difference to keep America safe.
Congressman, thanks for the time. We appreciate it. We hope to see you soon.
Hey, thanks so much. Great to be with you.